Now it's time for tip-episodes with quick tips you should know. Techniques you can implement into your workflow right here on A Tale, oh yeah, A Tale of Two Hygienists.
All right, everyone. Welcome into this week's tip episode. I'm joined today by Kim and Tina. Welcome to the both of you for the podcast.
Well,
Thanks
you,
for
Andrew.
having us.
I'm excited. One of the things is that, as you guys know, we try and bring on other podcasters on the show because, this is a big sandbox. We all get to play and we all get to have fun in this together. And I wanted to just maybe if we could talk about the podcast that you all have and maybe some of our listeners can come and find you. So first things first, if you guys, I know the listeners probably know both of you, but do you mind just a little bit of a background of who both of you are?
Yeah, no problem. So, Andrew, I'm Tina Clarke. I'm a hygienist. I'm based in Oregon. I've been practicing for over 20 years and I'm a clinician, I'm an educator, and then I also am the, anesthesia girl. I'm your girl for anesthesia. So, I have that as my other fun thing that I get to do among some other things. But that's just the real short, simple version.
So I am Kim. I've been a hygienist for almost 15 years, also work in education like Tina. And then I'm just really passionate about helping new grads as they enter into the workforce. So I've created kind of a business around that. It's called Bloom RDH. And I really just help those new grads with some mentorship as they hit that working world so that they're not feeling alone as they enter that operatory by themselves.
Yeah. It's really interesting though, I think for both of you, you have your one silo of education, right? You have your one silo of, clinician, you have your one silo of this. But I think I know both of you outside of all of those realms. And I know you from, well, Tina, I mean, I've known you from the podcast, but also I see what you're doing working with like Misty on like
Yes.
statewide, really cool like legislation. Kim, we just met up a few weeks ago and like you have this big old audience of like almost graduates. And it's really cool what you both are doing. So how did you guys come together and what was the ideation behind creating the podcast?
Well, I really honestly, our first interaction with each other was through social media. Kim had reached out to me asking some questions of like, okay, I'm looking at becoming a full-time educator and doing my passion of helping new grads. How does that work for you as someone who's also an educator and also has work outside of the traditional school setting? And so we started talking about that. And then lo and behold, we also started working with the company called Dental Post, which is a nationwide job board type of an organization. And we both ended up being KOLs for them. And then Kim was like, Tina, I think that we should probably get together and have some talks. Yes, let's do it.
Yeah. Kim, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, Tina said it beautifully. It was her and I think hit it off really well. I'm on the East Coast, she's on the West Coast. I'm just outside of Boston. And I said, let's just come together, coast to coast and have some chats that, things that we're seeing out there in the world or in education, business-wise, hygiene-wise, and see where it goes.
Yeah. And that's why the name RDH Coast to Coast came up is since I'm Oregon and she's, I'm West Coast, she's East Coast. So we're like, oh, we can, we're like coast to coast. And with having the commonality of working with students and coming through and looking at what does that transition look like, we had that commonality there and just years of being clinicians, right? That's like, I think that oftentimes we think that it's only the new grads that struggle with, workplace transition or work communication issues, the drama, office politics. But I'm here to tell you after 23 years, it'll be 23 years this June of being a licensed hygienist. And good golly, I thought that I would be way past that in my life by now, but it is there still. Office politics and drama.
It really is. It doesn't ever stop, I don't think, unfortunately. I mean, there's these beautiful offices out there that, the unicorn offices that they're called. But so as you're preparing for you guys do a weekly podcast? Is that the format for
weekly
it?
one. Mm-hmm.
You all do video, which is a great addition. I don't think a lot of people are doing video podcasts, so I'm glad you guys are doing that. As you're preparing for this weekly episode, like how do you figure out what type of topics you want to tackle, or what are maybe some of the topics that you guys have tackled recently that you guys really enjoyed?
I think we really look at, what's happening, what are we seeing through social media? What are we hearing through the grapevine? What can we talk about? We like to keep our episodes under 15 minutes. So they're
Mhm.
really kind of called the break time chat. So you can, listen to it on your commute to work if you have a short commute, or you're grabbing lunch and you need to just disconnect from your office.
Mhm.
They're just, during a break, catch it. We're not going to take up too much of your time, and we really just kind of dive into anything that we're seeing out there. Recently, we've talked about, keeping your passion alive. We've talked about, transitioning into your boards and into being a full-time clinician. And really, if we get some audience questions as well, people will reach out and we'll tackle those. But anything else you want to add to that, Tina?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we've had topics. I literally am pulling up our podcast so I can look at what some of our titles were, because you would think like, oh yeah, I've totally got it right off the top of my head, but no. So like transitioning, teamwork, like what does it take? What is, teamwork makes the dream work, those types of things. Imposter syndrome is a big one. And I think that, that's an all around type of event that we have. So yeah, it
Mhm.
is, we have those topics. And then both Kim and I will have individuals that will reach out to us with questions of, hey, I have to go on vacation and I have to find my own person to cover for me. Is that normal? Or I have a working interview coming up. What should I be thinking about? Like those types of things are just quick little snippets of conversation. And then there's times where all of a sudden we kind of go off topic.
And those are the
And
best
that's okay.
times, right? Those are the
Yeah.
Yeah.
unscripted, like, you got your own little yeah, no, I love
Yeah.
those ones.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, I appreciate you both so much for joining the space, for doing what you guys do in dentistry. I would love our listeners to be able to go find you, also maybe submit some questions to you. So what's the best way for them to contact you, and how can they find the podcast?
Yeah, well, the podcast name is RDH Coast to Coast, and because we are, like, basically self-produced, it is on Spotify, because 'cause I'm still learning how to figure out how to push it out to all the platforms, but it's on Spotify and then also on YouTube, RDH Coast to Coast, so you can have those 2 options to be able to view it or listen to it, and we have all the links within that podcast, but, individually, I think you can reach out to both Kim and I. I'm teacher Tina RDH on the social medias, and Kim is Bloom RDH. Right, Kim Bloom RDH
Yes.
on the social
Yes.
medias, and that's usually how we get all of our information. Kim, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think that's great. I think we both try to stay pretty active through social media. So reaching out to us that way is always great, or email. We always love to have guests on as well. If anyone's
Mhm.
ever interested, we'd love to have you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you, Andrew.
A tale of two hygienics.